In your view, what is the most important piece or pieces of evidence that you have revealed in regards to the assassination of President Kennedy?
We'll go ahead and move to the next piece of evidence, which is what are we going to do with Oswald?
Number 3, lowering Oswald's threat level. This was very sinister.
Well, because if Oswald, who was a communist defector, right, back in 1959, and at this time, what is he doing? He's down in Mexico City trying to defect a second time.
Right.
All right.
To the Soviet Union through Cuba, right?
Yeah, and it says in his passport that that's illegal. That you can go back if you want to the Soviet Union, but you can't go through Cuba. So what does he do? He goes down and says, "I want to go through Cuba." But the problem with this is that a 2-time communist defector in an overview position of the parade route, you can't imagine that happening because the Secret Service removes anybody who's on the list of people that are a threat. They have to take them off. The security list, the security index, it's called, okay? And so to get to now the FBI is the one that does that, not the CIA. But the CIA is taking care of business here by lowering his threat profile. And
so it was October when he was in Mexico City trying to defect?
Yes.
And what happened was the person in the embassy in Mexico City called up CIA, right? And they said, there's this guy down here, he's trying to defect.
His name is Win Scott.
Win Scott.
He's in charge down there in Mexico City, and he doesn't know who this guy Oswald is, and he's going all around to these communist consulates. And he asks, who is this guy? Right? And so a lot of people knew what Oswald was doing in New Orleans. He was on the news, he was in a courtroom, and he was put in a jail, and Hoover wrote letterhead memoranda that summer to the CIA. But guess what happened to it? It got filed in places where nobody could find it at the CIA, except for a couple of people. And here's my evidence right here. What we're looking at here is a combination of things.
Where did you find this?
These are declassified documents.
Okay.
And these are the pieces of them. These are the routing and record sheets that shows everybody in the CIA who actually saw these things that Hoover sent, and they had to initial with their initials and date. So we know who actually had access to it. And it's only a few people. It's only like 3 or 4 people in the whole CIA. And one of them was Jane Roman. She was the liaison for counterintelligence in the CIA. And so she had access to it. You can see counterintelligence liaison right here, and there's Jane Roman. There's her little initials. Okay. And that was on this report here. This report was about everything Oswald was doing in Dallas and so on. And this is the next one that came in, and this is in October. Okay, September and October. That this stuff is coming. It's dated here, but you can see the people are signing off on it in October over here. It's going and making the rounds, and these are the people that know. And
these are just reports on his activities in Dallas and in New Orleans.
That's right. Okay. So
and Mexico City.
That's right. They're trying to figure out what's happening down there in Mexico City. Now, what ends up happening is that who's going to answer the call or the cable at the CIA and at FBI? Let's do the CIA first. And so it's a guy by the name of John Whitten. He's the guy who has the desk at CIA headquarters to communicate with Win Scott. That's his job. He's got the Mexico City desk. So he's the one who has to tell Win Scott who this guy is.
Okay.
And he says, oh, he looks at the 201 file for the guy and says, yeah, well, our latest headquarters information is May 62. Oswald is still in the Soviet Union in May 62. It's all gone. He's the guy who's supposed to know what's happening and who can answer the question. But it's all gone. So nobody in the CIA except for these few people know about it. So that's when I decided to go see Jane Roman Jeff Morley and I went over, we got her address on Rock Creek Park, and I showed her these documents, what were behind the routing sheets, the actual documents that Hoover sent. And I said, "Do you remember reading this?" And she said, "Yeah, sure. I remember reading it." And we talked about that. I got her to remember everything that she read on these things. And you signed off on them. Yeah, you did. Yeah, I did. I said, "Well, why did you sign off on this one down here?" Latest headquarters information is May 62, when you were signing off on these things in October of 63. And then her mouth smiled, and the sides went up towards the ears, and she said she knew she got caught. Okay. This is what she said. "Yes, I'm signing off on something I know isn't true." Wow. She took a lot of heat for that too.
Really?
Yes, she did. They really made her life difficult. Anyway, so I asked her, I said, "Well, why would you do this? Why and what do you think about this false cable that Whitten wrote?" And she says to me, "Well, to me, it's indicative of a keen interest in Oswald, held very closely on a need-to-know basis." What that does, it blows through countless years of denial that they had any interest in Oswald at all. I mean, look at it.
Yeah.
This is the liaison person at the highest levels who's saying...
She's admitting she lied.
She's admitting that the United States Central Intelligence Agency had a keen interest in Oswald, held very closely on a need-to-know basis.
Right.
That's why they were mad at her, because she let she let it out. Okay, so it's important to understand this is going on. So, and that's why I like to show you this picture here. That's the book depository. And so if Oswald's up here, and this guy is a two-time commie defector, and a Castro guy, what's he doing up there? He should be on the security index. Mm-hmm. And here he is with the rifle that was supposedly used up there in his backyard, being a so-called picture taken by Marina, his wife. Yeah. But the shadows are all wrong and everything's on. Anyway, I like to just put this down here at the bottom of that picture: a flea at a Lysol party.
A flea at a Lysol party.
Yeah. In other words, the odds of this being true, that this guy's supposed to be up there, is about like what would happen to a flea at a Lysol convention. It doesn't happen. It's crazy. It's stupid. So I thought I'd make a little joke of that, just for some humor. But it's not humorous, actually, because Kennedy's going to die. Anyway, so...
But they completely removed any sort of threat level on the FBI and the CIA, so he could have been there.
We've done the CIA. Now comes the next one, comes the FBI. We have independent attestation of the same hoax going on at CIA and FBI. So veteran FBI supervisor, his name is Marvin Giesling, was assigned to handle the same unexpected cable from Mexico City as Whitten did. He worked for the FBI's espionage division for a long time, and he had been put in charge of Oswald's FBI espionage file when he defected to the Soviet Union back in 1959. Mm-hmm. Okay? At that time, Giesling immediately put Oswald on what they called a flash stop on anything in that file. You couldn't read it, and you couldn't put anything in there without his permission, because he was the one who owned that, and it was very, very sensitive for lots of reasons, that all these United States, the State Department and the Navy and everybody else had gone crazy. This is October 1959, okay? But the problem is, now we go forward to 1963. Mm-hmm. Exactly 4 years after Oswald's defection, Giesling, too, had to reply to the request from Scott. Incredibly,
Scott from Mexico City.
Yeah, that's right, Win Scott. And incredibly, after all those years, including all of Oswald's lures in Mexico and his Castro capers in New Orleans, Giesling swallows hard because he knows. See, Whitten didn't know, right? Because Whitten had the 201 file. He didn't lie. The 201 file lied to him because everything was taken out of it.
Right.
Okay, over here, this guy knows because he's got the file. He's got the whole file on Oswald, going all the way back to 59. He was the one in charge of it. Mm-hmm. So he does the same thing. But he has to swallow hard when he does it because he knows what he's doing. Right?
So he straight up lies.
He takes this shocking act of voiding the Oswald threat status by removing the flash stop. So now the red light stops spinning in the FBI about Oswald. There's no, so he's okay. So he's not on the security index. Therefore, he's not removed from the parade route. The FBI is the one charged with doing this.
So what happens when Mexico City desk calls Giesling?
He tells them that there's nothing to worry about. And he knows there is.
What was their question? They say, this guy's trying to defect. Who is he?
Well, he doesn't say very much. He just says, here, he removes the flash stop on Oswald.
Okay.
Anyway, the point is that what we do know about this is when Hoover found out what he did. Hoover punished him for his perfidy and disciplined many more agents because they didn't react to Scott's memo. So essentially, they're not doing the same. They're not saying very much, right? Marvin Giesling is not saying very much.
Right.
He has the memo from when Scott asking the question. What does he do? He doesn't say very much to Win Scott, but he takes Oswald, and removes the flash. So Oswald is now no longer going to be on the security index.
Right.
Now you have the flashing red lights turned off in the CIA and the FBI. Look, and this is October.
And why did Giesling do this? Why do you suspect Giesling did this?
Okay, here's my answer. Now, by the way, here's the proof, right here. This is you can see this. This is a document that was declassified. You can see that the flash was put on, the stop was put on back in 1959 when Oswald was in
and he was in the Soviet Union. Right.
He's done that, and now here we are on October 9th, 1963, when flash is canceled.
So that's when he's in Mexico City in 63, October 9.
Yes, and now to answer your question, why Giesling was never deposed and asked directly why he removed Oswald from the FBI's espionage list, or who told him to do it,
right,
is one of the crucial lingering questions unsolved in the assassination of President Kennedy. Nobody knows.
Never deposed. Nobody ever asked him.
He was disciplined, but
by Hoover.
Yes, and a lot of other people were too. But that was the end of it. Hoover doesn't want any of this stuff to come out.